The Pacific Island region is so easily portrayed for tourism postcards, but the majority of the news avoids the stories of the impact of rising sea levels, and that loss and damage is the loss of livelihoods, culture, and identity. Within that is the loss of the dignity of communities and the further marginalization of women as the victim or the project beneficiary. The power of the media often perpetuates power imbalances. We have the evidence through successive reports of the Global Media Monitoring Project on how or how not women are portrayed or featured in the news. So for me, the issue of fake news is not about the creation of the content, but who is really determining the content. Because that person, that power is determining our peace and security, including our climate security. Just as we have seen the power of militarism making the news in the context of COVID-19 recently, and the way in which climate change is covered or portrayed in the media, demonstrates the power of industrialization. The industrialized might is being more valued than communities on the front line of the climate crisis, including in Australia. We live with the climate crisis on a daily basis in local communities across the Pacific. And the impact of COVID-19 and the COVID-19 response as a humanitarian response should not be by devaluing the response to the climate crisis. The democratization of the media, and in particular the broadcast airways for the Pacific, requires regulatory processes, infrastructure, and content production systems that contribute to transforming systems of inequality to communities where we can sustain peace, prevent conflict, and realize resilience. In the Pacific region, reaching the unreached requires communication systems spanning across our Blue Pacific. And civil society networks such as the Shifting the Power Coalition are demonstrating innovative approaches to reach the most marginalized and vulnerable across 22 Pacific Island countries and territories in collaboration with GPAC, which is the Global Partnership for the Prevention of Armed Conflict. We're working with 800 different languages when it comes to Papua New Guinea. We're finding ways to communicate with women such as young Natasha, who lives on Nissen Island, where there is no regular boat service, let alone a communication system. We're finding that information communication systems must respond to the most critical human security priorities facing Pacific women. And this does not mean projectized activities or relying on press releases and online or televised updates, which actually further marginalize the unreached. Independent women-led community media approaches have a significant role to document and communicate information that is inclusive, empowering, and transformative. It is the demonstration of the shift in the power of who does or does not make the news. We have seen this happen in Vanuatu. Through ActionAid Vanuatu, we have been able to work with the Women Who Talk Together network to set up the Women Wet and Weather system. That system was able to reach 77,000 people with life-saving information. That system has been able to reach women in the communities to be able to talk about the impact of climate crises and other environmental hazards that are influencing their food, their health, their community security, and their protection priorities. It is important that what we do together is to bring a shift in the power in terms of content, and that the investment in our information systems, public and community platforms available in local languages, accessible for persons with disabilities, focusing on remote outreach to reduce insecurities in communities, to unpack and unveil the reality of the climate crisis, which is not just affecting us in our Pacific Island countries, but is also affecting coastal communities, inland communities, farming communities on the Australian continent. Ultimately, community media, and in particular independent media, must play a vital role in contributing to the community's understanding of the grave reality of the climate crisis. It must provide an important additional channel to ensure inclusive response and recovery measures and to convey that women's rights are non-negotiable when it comes to addressing our environmental security, when it comes to addressing the climate crisis and climate security agenda. The media must provide information. The media must enable communication in a way that's not just reporting the actions of decision makers, but more importantly, providing a pathway that amplifies the language of human security and dedicates resources to diversify the availability of health information, food security information, information about water security, that enhances the understanding of protection measures, as well as recognizing the potential for innovation that community media can enable. Women Who Talk Together and Women Wet and Weather have been able to demonstrate how information from scientific means, from health means, can be translated into local languages, can be disseminated to communities and reach women and their families and their communities where they are. Women Who Talk Together has been able to demonstrate how women leaders equipped with information, policy information, community-based evidence, protection information, can talk about these issues on the national television, on national radio, and field questions and challenges from men and other people in their society. This is how we can utilize information communication systems. This is the role of the media, to amplify not just one powerful agenda, but the power of the community. It's time for information and communication systems to shift the power to those who have the biggest stakes in our communities: women, young people, faith leaders, and local communities. Thank you.